Long before we had calendars, clocks, apps, and algorithms, we had the sky. We read the world not by notifications, but by constellations. We navigated not by GPS, but by stars. We understood cycles not through data, but through the moon, the seasons, the dance of the planets across the night. For tens of thousands of years, humans oriented their inner world through what they witnessed in the outer world. The sky was the original model of time, a mirror of rhythm, pattern, meaning, and flow. And in a way, that's easy to forget today. The sky moved slowly. It asked us to move slowly, to live with nature's pace, to respect cycles, not constant stimulus, to honor seasons, not instant gratification. Astrology was never about predicting the future. It was about pattern recognition, a symbolic language that helped humans understand how to live with rhythm, intention, and grounded presence. And now, in the age of AI, a world that's literally defined by speed, volume, and relentless input, this ancient rhythm is not outdated. It's actually essential. Imagine for a second a group of early humans sitting around a fire. There's no electricity, there's no screens, there's no digital noise. And above them, there's a vast canvas of stars, millions of miles away, yet intimately familiar. These early humans were not naive. They weren't worshiping planets. They were observing patterns. The same way we study patterns through data today. They noticed that the moon cycles affect the tide. The sun's position affects temperature and harvest and activity. That Venus appears brightest during periods of calm. That Mars glows red during seasons of tension. That Saturn's slow orbit mirrors life lessons we can't rush. That Jupiter's expansiveness mirrors seasons of opportunity. Astrology emerged as a form of archetypical mapping, a way of aligning human behavior with natural cycles. Now imagine those same early humans looking at us today, scrolling through information at warp speed and living outside of all cycles except the algorithm, believing we're disconnected from nature because we no longer see the sky. They would say, "You've not evolved beyond the stars. You've just simply forgotten to look up." Here's the bridge most people miss. Astrology is not a replacement for science. It's an archetypical language that maps out onto the same psychological and neurological systems that we understand today. Deep neuroscience tells us that the human brain is a predictive processing machine. It means that we consistently seek patterns to make sense of life. Symbolic systems like astrology activate the default mode network, the brain regions responsible for self-awareness and meaning-making. Archetypes create cognitive coherence, helping us interpret our experiences through narratives instead of chaos. Rhythms regulate the nervous system, especially circadian and ultradian cycles. Humans thrive when life has structure, metaphor, and seasonal pacing. Astrology offers all of this, not as superstition, but as a mirror of rhythm in a world that's lost the ability to pace itself. In the age of AI, our nervous system is overstimulated, drenched in dopamine and stripped of cyclical meaning. Astrology helps reverse that. It returns us to a natural rhythm, a cosmic pacing mechanism that complements biology instead of overwhelming it. Let's go deeper for a second. First, let's talk about predictive processing and symbolic systems. Your brain consistently tries to reduce uncertainty. Astrology gives symbolic structure, a meaning-making framework that organizes chaos into archetypical cycles. This stabilizes your predictive systems and reduces anxiety. Second, think about chronobiology and planetary cycles. The movement of the sun and the moon is literally tied to melatonin release, cortisol rhythm, circadian wake cycles, emotional processing. Astrology simply extends these patterns symbolically into a map for emotional, relational, and creative timing. Third, think about introception and archetypes. Interoception, which is your ability to sense your internal state, improves when your experiences are placed within a narrative system. Astrological archetypes give emotional experiences language and shape in ways the nervous system finds soothing. Fourth, think about collective synchrony. Humans regulate through shared meanings. Astrology creates collective coherence, a shared symbolic map that lets people orient together instead of alone. And fifth, think about rhythmic regulation. Planetary cycles mirror natural emotional pacing. The moon cycle mirrors emotional waves. Mercury cycles mirror cognitive pacing. Venus cycles mirror relational patterns. Mars cycles mirror action rhythms. Saturn cycles mirror long-term growth arcs. These archetypes help the brain stimulate rhythm in a world that no longer provides it physically. Astrology is not about fate. It's about nervous system design. Artificial intelligence accelerates everything. Faster work, faster information, faster expectations, faster validation loops. But humans cannot live at algorithmic speed. Our nervous system collapses under it. Astrology gives us the opposite: slowness, cycles, breathing, meaning, pattern, recognition, reflection, integration. AI runs exponentially. Astrology runs rhythmically. AI optimizes productivity, and astrology optimizes presence. AI helps us work, and astrology helps us live. Together, they create a balance that is, quite frankly, deeply human. This webinar exists because in a world of infinite speed, you need an anchor, you need a rhythm, you need a map. You need a reflective system that slows you down and brings you back to your nature. That's one of the roles of astrology now, not prediction, but orientation. Let's explore the planetary archetypes not as a way to tell fortunes, but as symbolic rhythms for living with intention. Take the sun for identity and vitality, your core life energy, your organizing principle, your sovereign self. In a world where AI can mimic personality, the sun reminds you of your authentic center. The moon, think of it as your emotional rhythm. A 28-day emotional processing cycle. It regulates intuition, safety, inner life. Your phone doesn't care about your emotional rhythm, but maybe the moon does. If you think about Mercury for thought and communication rhythm, Mercury retrograde is not a disaster. It's a natural cycle of review, reflection, and recalibration. Your mind needs this rhythm, but the digital world ignores it. If you think of Venus for connection and values rhythm, Venus represents desire, not the algorithm's desire, your desire. A reminder that relationships and beauty cannot be optimized. They must be felt. Mars, think about that as action and agency rhythm. Mars gives direction, aim, decisiveness. It cuts through noise and moves forward. AI can automate tasks and it can give you efficiency, but it cannot act on your behalf. Mars is your agency. When you think of Jupiter, think of expansion and possibility rhythm, momentum, growth, opportunity windows. Jupiter teaches that expansion is cyclical. You grow, then you integrate. You grow, then you integrate, and you grow some more. Saturn looks at boundaries and structure rhythm, not punishment, not restraint. But Saturn is maturity and mastery and discipline and sovereignty. In an AI world full of chaos, Saturn is the sacred no that protects your nervous system. Astrology reminds us that life is not linear. It's cyclical, it's seasonal, it's rhythmic, it's just like nature, just like the body. So let's return to our story that I've talked about many times on this webinar and this podcast. A woman who works in a fast-paced digital environment with AI tools and endless communication and multitasking. The speed never stops. It actually just, it only accelerates. She feels scattered and ungrounded, always behind. Then one day, she begins paying attention to something older than the algorithm. She notices how she feels differently during the moon cycle. She watches how her energy rises and falls with the sun. She aligns her planning with Mercury's cognitive rhythm. She tracks her desire during Venus cycles. She notices her fire rise with Mars transits, and she respects her need for boundaries during Saturn periods. And slowly something shifts. She becomes less reactive, more intentional, more grounded, more centered, more human. She begins using astrology not to predict her life, but to pace her life. And in that pacing, she finds perspective. She finds presence. She finds perspective. Inside the impossible prompt, this ancient rhythm becomes a modern tool. The system listens to your patterns, your cycles, your needs, your overwhelm, your energy shifts, and reflects them back to you with clarity and precision. It helps you see which seasons of your life require action, which ones require reflection, where your nervous system is overstretched, and how to design your days around your natural rhythm. It also looks at how AI can support your pacing instead of overriding it, how to integrate astrology as a grounding framework, and how to live in sync with yourself again. The impossible prompt doesn't treat astrology as superstition. It treats it as an archetypical data, a meaning-making system that supports human nervous system health in a world that, frankly, just moves too fast. This is where ancient wisdom and modern intelligence meet. I'm not asking you to believe that astrology predicts the future. That's not what we're talking about here. That was never its purpose. You only need to understand this, that rhythm is your birthright. Presence is your guide. Cycles are your anchor. Astrology gives you a way to remember what the modern world forgot. You're not a machine. You're not linear. You're not optimized. You're not meant to run at algorithmic speed. You are cyclical. You're seasonal. You're rhythmic. And you're human. And in the age of AI, that humanity is your greatest power. So, if this webinar helped you awaken something inside you, if you're curious about how to use planetary wisdom to create grounding, orientation, and presence in a rapidly accelerating world, then this is your invitation. Request your private invitation to the impossible prompt. Because the future does not belong to the machines. It belongs to humans who remember their rhythm, who honor their cycles, who navigate both by the stars and the self. Those who stay grounded in a world that moves really, really fast, and those who remain impossibly human.